So Dan, I know many of the Tech Zone Live sessions that we've done have focused on one specific product or one piece of our technology stack. And for this session, what we want to do is we want to show you what happens when you're bringing in multiple technologies together into one single solution.
Yeah, and we want to see like what would happen if we combine Google Cloud, different technologies within the Google platform with Citrix Workspace. What would the user experience look like? What would they be able to do? How would it work?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why we've brought in one of our experts, Rick Dellinger, and he is actually our Google expert here at Citrix. So, Rick, welcome to Tech Zone Live. Could you introduce yourself?
What's up, gang? Rick
Hey.
Dillinger, technically considered a principal solution architect these days. I've been focusing on our public cloud alliances and specifically Google now for about 3 years.
So I believe you got some pretty cool stuff to show us as usual. I would expect no less from you.
Well, yeah, and hopefully it'll be some stuff that you haven't seen too much of before. We do so much talk and public marketing and visibility and stuff around the integration work that we do with Microsoft and Microsoft technologies. But what a lot of people don't realize that we've also invested substantially in customer choice. That's kind of one of the key values that we stand behind with our product and service offerings. So we've actually got a pretty substantial tech stack in place today with Google that I'm kind of teed up to be able to give you a little taste of and talk about how it all comes together.
Let's do it.
All right, fair enough. So kind of back to the point that I had just made a minute ago. We've been talking about and showing off a lot about the stuff that we do with Microsoft. But what a lot of people don't understand is that we've actually got a long and very successful and productive relationship with Google as well. So this goes well back into 2011 and the launch of Chrome operating system and the Chromebooks, where Citrix was actually a launch partner of that. If you roll that forward to today and to beyond, pretty much every technology in the Citrix technology stack also works with Google. And not just works with Google, but all the pieces can come together to provide a really nice and very compelling user experience. So in the Google world, you ostensibly have kind of three big buckets of products or technologies that they're selling to businesses. You've got GCP, and they're fantastic and very innovative public cloud platform. You got Google Workspace, aka G Suite, the new G Suite. You've also got Chrome operating system, Android devices, and the management stacks, Chrome Enterprise, Android Enterprise on top of those. So Citrix Workspace and our cloud services work together to pull all those different technologies together and give the user a nice, very compelling, very modern user experience. But one thing that we'd like to point out, customers tend to make a big decision one way or the other. They throw the big part of their hat into one ecosystem or another. And what we find is that a lot of customers actually have thrown their hat in and are committed to the Google ecosystem of apps. But the more, we've got lots of different point integrations in places where our technologies work together. But when you bring all those pieces together, that's actually where you get a dramatic increase, an additive effect of the value, the business value out of the solution stack. So from the user experience perspective, we bring all these pieces together, and what I'm going to show you actually looks very similar to this. I've got a couple of demo videos that we recorded to show you a good portion of this user experience that we've got laid out here. So what do you think, guys? Should we take a look at what the UX is like?
Definitely.
All right, fantastic. So this first little video that we've got teed up here, this one kind of highlights the user experience with Google Chrome on an endpoint. And as I mentioned in the introduction, Chrome operating system has actually seen a massive, like over 100% increase in their business sales as of this last year, driven in part by the increased work from home stuff. And part of the reason that that is such a fantastic growth and that they've been selling so well is because the user experience on their devices and the capabilities that they provide is great from the user's perspective, and from the administrator's perspective, it's also great because they can, with very little work using the Chrome Enterprise Management tool, they can do some things like I'm showing you here. So with this video, what you're seeing is essentially the first time use setup. So imagine this device just shows up at an end user's home. They pull it out of the box, they turn it on, fire it up, connect it to the network. Now, the way Chrome Enterprise works, you can kind of think of it like a cloud service-based group policy, right? It gives you OUs, gives you policy settings that you can set at different levels in the OUs with policy inheritance. And inside of that policy engine that's cloud-based, so you don't need anything particular other than an internet connection to get to it, the administrator can do things like, full pre-configuration of the device, including installing and configuring applications like the Citrix components. So Citrix Workspace app, as you'll see here in just a moment, and even one of our newer browser plugins that will pop up and make a surprise appearance before we end. So what you see here is the user logging into the device the first time with Google Identity, in this case. And as they get signed in, the Chrome device is going out, talking to Chrome Enterprise, identifying itself in the OU that it needs to drop into, and then it's getting all its configuration and such pushed down, including applications and settings. So here you see the browser pop up with a starting URL going to the Citrix Workspace web UI. You see the pass-through authentication of the Google ID. There's that little intro that I had pointed out of the other little extension that we're previewing, and boom, that's it. Now the user's there and they're logged into Workspace. They can do the things, types of things that you would expect to be able to do. So I'm going to pause at this, and then we're going to switch over and I want to show you another real quick video. So in this other video, this is focused almost completely on the end user experience from inside of the Citrix Workspace app. So it's showing off the capabilities of Chrome Enterprise, of the Chrome device, of Citrix Cloud, Citrix Workspace, single sign-on to web applications, launching and integration of virtualized applications, integration of content collaboration and Google Drive. It kind of shows the gamut inside of a little over a 2-minute video. So what you saw at the beginning there was essentially like the first time use experience, the user pulling it out, logging in, bam, Workspace is already there, deployed, already configured. They launched a virtualized application, which in this case is running very effectively on GCP. And now you see them inside of the virtualized app, opening up through Citrix files and opening up a document that's sitting out in the user's Google Drive. So that ability to bring the user's content together, whether it's in Google Drive, whether it's in content collaboration, or otherwise, is really powerful. Here you see a click and a link, single sign-on. So this is an example of what like a SaaS application would look like, right? Where Workspace can do the single sign-on to SaaS-based applications and services as well. So we saw a couple of good examples there. That right there doesn't show you a heck of a lot, but you may have heard Google here talking recently about their Beyondcorp Enterprise. They just did a launch of that actually beginning of this week, or last week, something like that. Anyway, we've done quite a bit of work in working with Google on Beyondcorp Enterprise and our Zero Trust offerings as well, and you're going to see quite a bit more coming out of them in the future. So as we continue on here, you see the user experience with published applications where you get multiple apps, session sharing seamlessly back and forth with each other, the integration with Citrix files and Content Collab on the back end, opening and saving docs and moving them back and forth between the two different storage locations. So what it didn't show there was the virtual desktop experience, but I mean, you get a virtual desktop, you click on it, you launch it, it's either full screen or it's windowed, and you do your thing with it. Works like a champ on top of Chrome.
Yeah, so from there, new Chromebook, sign into Google ID, Workspace gets pushed down. I get all my resources, whether they're web, SaaS, virtual, doesn't matter. Everything's there in a single location. All the user had to do was turn on the Chromebook.
Yep. That was all they had to do, is turn it on. So you see now I kind of did a quick pop back to this end-to-end user experience slide, because you can pick out from what I just showed you. I don't have a couple of those pieces already there and integrated, because some of them don't demo so awfully well, but hopefully that will give our listeners a quick understanding of what the heck we've got going on here.
And I think it's really cool that we integrate across the entire stack, right? So like we're launching the workspace in a Google operating system. Some of those resources you said were hosted on GCP, and we integrate with Google Drive. So it's really cool to see our entire stack integrated with their entire stack. It's a great partnership.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And the more we actually start talking about and showing off this partnership, the more we're seeing customers come out of the woodwork and saying, whoa, we didn't know you did that. We didn't know you worked with Google. We thought you just worked with Microsoft. Well, I got news for you, baby. We do, and we do a darn good job of it. And we're far from done.
Yeah, and even I know earlier on when you were showing just the different capabilities, you mentioned the virtual desktop. It's one of the big things with doing virtual desktops is just the whole image management. And in the cloud we're using machine creation services, and it's like, yep, that's on Google Cloud, so you can what you're used to still works there too.
Yep. So we've got a couple of customer case studies that were either just released or you'll see coming up here soon, where customers literally they had Citrix Workspace and virtualized apps running on GCP deployed for a segment of their organization. And then when all the COVID work from home stuff hit, they literally, over the course of a week, from what are we going to do to users actually logging in and being fully functional, they moved an entire call center. In this case, it was about 1,600 or 2,400 call center agents, I believe. They moved them to work from home, had them fully functioning with brand new devices, even drop shipped from Google. In a week's worth of time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, crazy. Very crazy. So I've got a couple of references here that I'd love to leave our listeners with if they want to learn a little bit more about this stuff. Do you mind if I introduce those?
Go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the first one I'm going to want to point out is this you can call it a reference architecture. It was written as a design guide. But this is really, like, if you're intent on deploying a Citrix virtualization stack on Google Cloud, this is where you want to go start. It's a substantial doc. I want to say it's north of 40 pages. It's very comprehensive and does a lot of linking outside to other topics. But this is written towards architects as they're looking to build solutions with Citrix virtualization on Google Cloud. Inside of that document, I highlighted one segment here, which is the design patterns. So in this doc, we lay out these 3 different design patterns that all kind of build on top of each other. So starting with the cloud forward design pattern, which is 100% cloud services. Customer can start with nothing more than a billable GCP project and an evaluation CVAD service subscription, and build a fully functioning system with the 2 of those. Hybrid, that starts to step it up and incorporates some of the customer managed stuff like Storefront and the ADC in order to hit some specific targeted use cases. Then it wraps up with what we call a cloud migration use case, which really helps the customer deploy new workloads on top of GCP side by side with their traditional customer managed stuff that's probably in their own data center, and then move workloads along from one to the other at the pace of the business. So I give you a quick walkthrough, and we go into each of these three design patterns in substantial amounts of detail inside of that design guide. And the last piece I'll leave folks with, that they're interested in Beyondcorp and Citrix Workspace and this whole concept of zero trust. Back at the end of October, we published this solution brief that, it's called Deliver Workspace Security and Zero Trust with Citrix and Google Cloud. It really talks about the intersection of Citrix Workspace and Google's Beyondcorp technology. And for people that aren't familiar with Beyondcorp, Beyondcorp was one of it's the way Google has been delivering zero trust access to all Google employees worldwide since, I want to say it was 2011. So it's a concept that they've been pioneering and they've been deploying for almost 10 years now. And they finally have productized that, and they're making it available to the market as Beyondcorp Enterprise. So for those of you that want to get geeky and understand a little bit more about how this solution works, this document goes into and kind of tears apart architecturally how Beyondcorp works, what components are involved in it, the architecture of Beyondcorp and how it does its thing. It talks about Citrix Workspace, and then we also get into a reference architecture for that solution as well. So two great resources for people that are interested in this solution. That's what I've got for you. What do you think?
I'm impressed.
Yay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I still go back to how simple it is from the user side. I mean, there's nothing to remember except your Wi-Fi password.
Right? And your corporate password, I suppose, too. But yeah, you can't do everything for them.
Yeah, no URLs or anything. Yeah, very slick.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's tough to demo things like the YubiKeys and devices like that. So you could do passwordless. So that's another thing that's coming up. You're going to see some pretty cool user experiences coming out of us together.
This was awesome, Rick, and like always, I think everyone appreciates a good demo, and you gave us two, so we can't complain.
Well, I got to one-up some of your other presenters, right? If they're doing one demo, I'm going to do two.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks again for having me, guys. Always great to chat with you.
Thanks,
Yep,
Rick.
thanks for joining.
You bet. Cheers.
Bye.